am Sharon Chira with Business Time on Times Television, where we give you major business and economic news stories making headlines. Coming up in the program today, Malawi is among 15 countries in need of energy investment. Old Mutual primarily lists on Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And in the foreign news, COMESA accused African states against protectionism. The African Development Bank, AFDB, has rated Malawi as one of the 15 African countries where massive improvement of the energy sector and strengthening of the regulatory independence is needed most. This is contained in the bank's first electricity regulatory index for Africa, which is crucial to providing checks and balances on issues of energy provision in Africa. George Mhango has the details.
Other countries that have been singled out in the report include Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, Lesotho, Namibia, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. The African Development Study, which was made public on the sidelines of the 2018 Africa Energy Forum in Mauritius at the weekend, measures the level of development of regulatory frameworks in 15 African countries and examines their impact on the performance of their respective electricity sectors. Speaking during the event, Vice President, Power, Energy, Climate and Green Growth Complex at the African Development Bank, Amadou Hott, said the main goal with the study is to incite key stakeholders in the African power sector to address regulatory performance and the gaps identified in the study. The study is expected to become a benchmarking tool that will track progress made by African countries as they align the regulatory frameworks governing the electricity sectors with international standards and best practices. Hott said periodic evaluation of regulators, as practiced in many developed countries, is important as it enables early identification of problems or gaps so that corrective actions can be implemented as soon as possible. The African Forum for Utilities Regulators described the index as a useful tool for improving electricity regulation and pledged to work with the bank to sustain the initiative. Meanwhile, the African Development Bank has said it will work together with its partners in regional member countries to provide the support, advice and assistance required to align regulation in the energy sector to international best practices. The report notes that while on average, well-developed electricity regulatory governance systems exist in 15 sample countries, there is room for improvement with respect to accountability and independence to align with international best practices, often necessary to attract future investment into the sector. Malawi, in a bid to ensure that energy in form of electricity is provided without interruptions, established the energy generation company Egenco as a sole power generator and left the task of power distribution and marketing to Electricity Supply Corporation of Malawi ESCOM. George Mhango, Blantyre.
Old Mutual Limited on Tuesday primarily listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, JSE, with secondary listings in Malawi, Namibia, Zimbabwe and the United Kingdom. This follows the managed separation of Old Mutual PLC into 4 entities, namely Quota PLC, Old Mutual Limited, Nedbank and OM Asset Management. There was pomp and fanfare in the Blantyre as Old Mutual Limited listed on the Malawi Stock Exchange. Our reporter Caroline Candiero witnessed the listing and now reports.
These are not cheerful supporters of any football team taking part on the ongoing World Cup in Russia, but rather they are employees of Old Mutual Limited celebrating the listing of their company on the Malawi Stock Exchange. At around 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning, Old Mutual Limited replaced Old Mutual Place on the local bourse following a successful management separation. Edith Gia, Old Mutual Limited Group Chief Executive Officer in Malawi, said the listing is a giant step closer to a long-term vision of being Africa's financial services champion.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. It is a great day, a milestone for Old Mutual. Today marks the day when Old Mutual Limited, a company that will have its roots in Africa, trading on the African continent has listed. This listing is currently happening on 3 other stock exchanges. The primary listing is on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We have witnessed the listing here at secondary listing at Malawi Stock Exchange. It's also happening in Zimbabwe, Namibia, as well as London.
Stock market analyst Noah Kadzakumanja, Chief Executive Officer, Stockbrokers Malawi Limited, said the listing is beneficial to shareholders.
The listing of Old Mutual Limited at the Malawi Stock Exchange is very important to a Malawian shareholder. Though I'm talking of those shareholders who are holding a share in Old Mutual PLC. Why is it important? Is because even after the Old Mutual PLC had decided to go into a managed separation, where the company now has been divided into 4 segments, they've still wanted to maintain a listing at the Malawi Stock Exchange. And how have they done this? It's by now listing the Old Mutual Limited, which visually is coming to take the place of Old Mutual PLC that was listed at the Malawi, that has been listed at the Malawi Stock Exchange for some time.
Old Mutual Limited will now focus its business in Africa, hence its listing on secondary markets in Malawi, South Africa, Namibia, and Zimbabwe.
The Tobacco Control Commission, TCC, says it is keeping its fingers crossed that lawmakers will pass the Tobacco Act and Control of Tobacco Auction Flows Act during the current sitting of Parliament. It is expected that the review of the 2 acts will help the sector introduce provisions that will improve service delivery and overall control and the management of the tobacco industry in Malawi. TCC Chief Executive Officer Kaisa Sadala said this in Lilongwe during a media briefing.
I think we have so far done 10 weeks up to Friday last week, and so far so good in terms of our expectation. We are saying so because we have seen lots of volumes that we have pushed through, probably doubling what was the case last time, same period last year. But also, most importantly, as you may be aware, that since we opened the floors, there have been no market stoppages. In the past, you would be having maybe market stopping for a day or 2 because the buyer and probably the seller are not agreeing. But those problems are not there this year. So we are happy. In terms of pricing, we are also satisfied with the prices this far because I think the buyers also have adhered to the set or agreed minimum prices. So we are not allowing, as TCC, for any buyer to buy tobacco below the agreed minimum price. So I think so far we are happy. We will be going for a nationwide exercise to do the final crop estimates sometime next week, specifically I think from Monday, 25th, to Friday, which is about, I think, 29th or thereabout. That crop estimate will inform us in terms of how much tobacco do we have out there in the field, but it will also tell us overall how much tobacco should we expect, or should we say the country has produced this far, because these are just estimates, you know. So it will also inform us in terms of, by judging the amount of tobacco that is still outstanding out there, it will inform us in terms of when we can start thinking of probably closing the market.
In terms of figures, do you have an idea as to how much we have realized, as I mentioned, in this week's movement?
Yes, I think so far we've done in excess of probably $136 million, which is much higher than what we did the last time. I'll say we should be able to give you all the details, the statistics, they are available. But the point is, I think we have almost nearly doubled last year's volumes in terms of the volumes that we have actually pushed through the market. Well, I think we are now hovering around 160 something as an average price. Of course, compared last year's average price may reflect a slightly higher figure, but that has to do with a lot of dynamics. When you are calculating a minimum price, it's the denominator that matters. So because we have pushed in more volumes this year compared to volumes last year, the minimum price is appearing to be slightly lower than last year. But overall, practically on the market, I think prices are much better this year compared to last year.
Okay, in terms of demand out there is a projection that in the next 2 years, tobacco demand for Malawi will decline, and that will affect what the country realizes on exports. How are you looking forward in terms of now addressing the critical issues on the global market?
In fact, I would want to disagree with that assertion, because in terms of demand for the Malawi tobacco, the demand is increasing. Of course, globally, demand is going down, but the demand for Malawi tobacco seems to be increasing. The current year, the buyer estimation in terms of what they wanted to procure from Malawi was 171 million kilograms of tobacco. And you have seen that our estimates were showing about less than 150 million kilograms of tobacco, showing that we are still underproducing when we compare with the demand. For the the coming season, which is 2018-19 season, the figures that we have here at TCC seem to indicate that the buyers actually are looking for more tobacco than what they were looking for in the current season. Now they are looking at 175 million kilograms of tobacco. So that will show you that the demand for the crop is actually increasing. Well, this is a very important bill that is currently on the floor of Parliament. We are hoping that any time now, probably by next week, Parliament will deliberate on the bill, and we are also hopeful that the Parliament will pass the bill. What will this mean? It will mean better protection for our growers, because that is the ultimate target of the bill, to ensure that the grower is protected, the grower is not exploited unnecessarily, but above all to ensure that our crop integrity is protected, so that we are able to safeguard the market share for Malawi. Because if we don't do that, then there will be a problem. So the bill essentially looks at so many areas. It is looking at the grower himself. It's looking at other stakeholders, like what kind of roles TCC is supposed to play. In fact, when the bill has been passed, the name of the institution will change from Tobacco Control Commission to National Tobacco Commission. It's also looking at how should other operators operate. For example, it's also talking about the contract farming. As you are aware, 80% of the crop is now under contract, while only 20 is on the auction. So it's also giving, is covering in terms of how should we regulate the intermediate buying issues. They are also properly covered there to avoid, because these are the people that spoil the whole show, spoil the quality, because the intermediate buyers are not growers. So they can buy tobacco, mix them anyhow, because they're not specialists in that. So it's also covering issues of what kind of punitive measures should take place for those that are violating. Because you can't just set a market anywhere and start growing tobacco. You have to be licensed to buy and sell tobacco. So it's also looking at the grower associations. There have been a proliferation of tobacco, grower associations. So many of them. But what value are they adding to the farmer? Is it more expense to the farmer or not? So those are also issues. There are also limitations that have been set. The guidance are there for transporters, for graders, for auction providers, and everybody else in the industry. So it is a well-encompassing bill.
I am Sharon Chira with Business Time. We'll be right back after this short break.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.etimes.co.za www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
As we proceed with the program, let's now have a look at how the Malawi kwacha is faring against major trading currencies on the foreign exchange market. The Blantyre District Health Office has urged business mining operators to use protective gear and undergo TB and HIV testing services to know their status. On Friday, various displays were set up in the district to commemorate World TB Day in the area of Traditional Authority Makata in Blantyre Rural, with emphasis on miners. George Mahango reports.
The call comes at a time when various miners were said to be at high risk of contracting TB as they inhale dust which exposes them to infection. The area has a mine called Ntale where iron ore is extracted. Less than 50 villagers work there and the mine is just an open one. According to BTDHO Director of Health and Social Services, Gift Kawalazira, such business operators need to be provided with medical care and protective gear.
Today, in Makata area, we are commemorating World TB Day. More specifically, special focus and emphasis on miners, because miners are one of the group of people that are actually at a higher risk of contracting this disease of tuberculosis. There is a mine here that is called Ntale mine, and they're actually mining what is called iron ore. The group of miners here is less than 50 that actually work there in the villages. Usually it's open mining. But for Blantyre as a whole, last year we managed actually to review over about 4,000 people that had tuberculosis. But the good news here is that 95% of those people who were actually reviewed, we managed to put them on treatment, and 85% of those people that were on treatment were actually cured from tuberculosis. It's very serious. Actually, Blantyre is one of the highest, one of the districts that has got the highest prevalence of TB in Malawi. There are several factors. As you know, that Blantyre is a city, for starters. And therefore, with cities, TB actually is very prevalent in areas that people actually live very close to each other, like in squatters. So as you know, Blantyre as a city has got slums and squatters in areas like Ndirande, Bangwe, Chirobwe, Zingwangwa, and so on and so forth. And our statistics and mapping is showing us that these are the areas that actually this disease is actually thriving. Government, in consultation with its development partners, has put in place several programs to mitigate the problem. And the bulk of these programs are community-based programs. So we have got community health workers, health surveillance assistants that are working in the villages, and they're running what are called sputum collection points, where people that have actually coughed for more than 2 or 3 weeks are encouraged to submit sputum for testing to see if they have got TB. But also there are other programs supported by other NGOs. We have got the mobile van that is fully equipped to actually collect samples and diagnose you on the spot to see whether you've got TB or not. So the message that we brought here in TA Makata was to actually encourage the traditional leaders and the local leadership to actually welcome these health workers when they come to the villages and to the households, so that they can do their work properly and people are actually free to interact with them and get assistance from them. You may wish to know that individuals that are HIV positive or that have got HIV/AIDS are also at a high risk of contracting diseases. So the categories of people that are at high risk of contracting tuberculosis are people that are old, more than 60 years and above, people that have got HIV and AIDS, people that are minors, and people that are children, 14 years and below. I can say so far there is good collaboration between the mining companies and the district health office. We do provide monitoring supervisory visits to the mining companies, and most of them actually have got the gear for the miners to protect themselves from this dust and eventually TB. what we're encouraging is to make sure that the miners are actually using this equipment in the right manner, because at times we've found that probably the equipment is there, but for other reasons the miners are not actually using the equipment. So we do go around and supervise them and encourage them actually to use the equipment the way it's intended to be used. Much as TB is problematic in Blantyre, the good news is that as long as once one has been diagnosed to have TB, we have the capacity to put you on treatment. So we have got several outreach programs, and we map all the people that have got multi-drug-resistant TB, and actually our health workers follow them into their households to make sure that they are actually administering treatment and they're actually adhering on the treatment. And we've got also specific health facilities that are meant to be reviewing these people that have got multi-drug-resistant TB, which is Limbe Health Center and Bango Health Center for now.
BTDHO has since introduced community-based programs where community health workers run community sputum collection points, and those that call for 2 weeks or so are encouraged to submit their sputum for testing. Group Village Head Mpopo, who represented Traditional Authority Makata at the event, held the TB in Mines program being implemented with support from the World Bank. George Mhango, Blantyre.
One of the country's commercial banks on Saturday unveiled the Ufulu account, which will see Malawians opening a bank account on their mobile phones without visiting a banking hall. The development comes at a time when a latest financial literacy survey has revealed that access to formal financial services stands at 29%. Our reporter Taonga Sabola caught up with the FGH Bank Head of Marketing for an insight on the Ufulu digital account.
This is a virtual account. It's the latest on the market. It's a digital account that has never been seen in Malawi before, and it targets everyone. The main thrust is to make it easy for anybody to have the account. You don't need paperwork. You don't need to have all sorts of complicated documents. No charges. You don't need balances. You don't need bank balances. It's all available for someone to use it. As we're putting it Ufulu digital account, it's bringing freedom. It's removing all the inconveniences that were there. So all you need to do is just dial *252, you follow the instructions, and you're on, you got your account. And you can start transacting. All the services you know of a transactional bank account, they are available on Ufulu. And Ufulu is going to bring the real freedom to the people, and it's going to contribute towards the economic growth of the country.
And in foreign news, the COMESA bloc has urged African states to seek alternative ways of protecting some sectors of their economy as the Continental Free Trade Area takes effect. The African Continental Free Trade Area is expected to come into effect at the end of the year. COMESA Competition Commission Chief Executive Officer George Lipumile says countries that enjoy some protectionism measures will have to get better alternatives in order not to undermine the effectiveness of AfCFTA.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
And that for a news item brings us to the end of Business Time right here on Times Television. I've been your host, Sharon Chirwa, but do remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Goodbye.